NASA added a new mission to its Artemis moon program, involving a spacecraft docking test in Earth's orbit before landing its first astronauts on the moon in over half a century, overhauling the flagship U.S. moon effort amid competitive pressure from China. The new Artemis mission, planned for 2027, is one of many moon program changes the U.S. Space Agency announced on Friday, as China inches closer to its own 2030 crewed moon landing goal. And U.S. safety experts warn more testing is needed before NASA makes its crewed attempt to land on the moon, now planned as Artemis IV in 2028. We all have arrived at the point that this is really the only pathway in order to achieve success with the lunar landing within the timeframes that we are targeting, NASA's Administrator Jared Isaacman said at a news conference on Friday, February 27th. NASA also canceled an effort to upgrade its Space Launch System rocket to instead focus on increasing that rocket's production and flight rate, which has been slow relative to newer rockets. The move impacts Boeing's roughly $2 billion contract to build a more powerful SLS upper stage, current plans for which have been canceled. Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin are each developing an astronaut lunar lander for the program, dueling to be the first to achieve the moon landing for NASA. Boeing and Northrop Grumman build SLS, which carries the Lockheed Martin-built Orion astronaut capsule that will taxi the astronauts to one of the lunar landers in space before landing on the moon. The new mission allows more practice for NASA before its more ambitious step of landing on the moon, which had long been planned for Artemis III. The agency launched an uncrewed test of SLS and Orion in 2022 and is targeting an April launch of Artemis II, taking 4 astronauts around the moon and back. The updated Artemis III mission will involve Orion, with astronauts aboard, demonstrating its ability to dock with one or both of the lunar landers in low Earth orbit. The process is a crucial juncture in the agency's path to the moon.
Calling today's event Ignition because it represents the start of a transformative journey for NASA. I'd like to begin by thanking the leadership of President Trump for providing NASA the tools and policy to execute on our world-changing mission. I also wish to acknowledge the coalition assembled here today. We have a bipartisan mix of members of Congress and staff from authorization and appropriation committees who have provided the direction and the resources. We have 35 international partner nations here, including ambassadors, ministers, and leaders of several space agencies who have worked alongside the United States in space for decades and will continue to do so on the journey ahead. And we have leaders from the most capable space industry in the world. NASA never undertakes these grand endeavors alone. The presence of all of you here today sends a very powerful message about what we intend to accomplish together. Now, in the few short months since I began this role, we have moved very quickly. We have taken action to cut bureaucracy with dozens of regulatory changes underway and more than 370 sections identified for deregulation. I've also issued numerous directives, with dozens more in progress, all focused on removing friction and empowering the workforce and accelerating logical execution. That urgency reflects the moment we are in. It reflects the reality of a very great power competition, the importance of our mission, and the expectations rightfully placed on this agency by the American people, and the consequences if we fail to deliver. Taxpayers support NASA because we can change the world in air and space and science and inspire the next generation along the way. But we cannot be spread thin trying to undertake dozens of externally imposed and self-inflicted distractions, jumping straight to the dream state at the expense of an achievable strategy. For too long, we tried to satisfy every stakeholder. The results of that approach are very well documented in OIG reports. Billions wasted, years lost, non-conforming hardware delivered, programs that never launch, fewer flagship science missions, virtually no X-planes, less astronauts in space, which means less kids dressing up as astronauts for Halloween. I don't like it, the president doesn't like it, and the American people have waited long enough for the headlines only NASA is capable of making. For decades after the last space race, NASA was really the only game in town. For better or worse, the plan changed. We formed partnerships, spread goodwill, and tried to undertake programs that attempted really to make everyone happy. The outcomes became less important, skills atrophied, and now we find ourselves with a real geopolitical rival challenging American leadership in the high ground of space. NASA has stated we will return Americans to the moon before the end of President Trump's term. Our great competitor said before 2030. The difference between success and failure will be measured in months, not years. They may be early, and recent history suggests we might be late. This is why it is imperative we leave an event like Ignition with complete alignment on the national imperative that is our collective mission. Over the past few months, I've visited all the NASA centers, and I've made a promise. If we concentrate NASA's extraordinary resources on the most important goals on the President's national space policy, clear away needless bureaucracy and obstacles that impede progress, and empower the workforce and partners, then returning to the moon and building a moon base will seem pale in comparison of what we're capable of accomplishing in the years ahead. This is a step in that direction, and you will hear updates on NASA's strategy across a number of important initiatives today. But to be clear, we are long past the time for words and PowerPoint. Alongside this event today, the RFIs and solicitations will go out, breakout sessions will begin, and as this spacefaring ship sets sail, the focus moves quickly to execution. Let's start with the most visible objective before us, returning American astronauts to the moon. Artemis II, in the days ahead, will send NASA and a CSA astronaut into the lunar environment, the first crewed step of the Artemis program to pick up where Gene, Harrison, and Ronald left off on Apollo 17. At the same time, we are standardizing the SLS architecture with the Centaur 5 upper stage. We're rebuilding and focusing expertise on ML1 pad turnaround and establishing the muscle memory required to support a higher launch cadence. The programs we left behind in this effort were not success stories. NASA takes ownership for the shortcomings, but contributing billions more and time that we do not have was not a pathway to success. On that note, I welcome the interest from industry to make use of these capabilities in furtherance of our shared priorities. As we move forward, we intend to launch Artemis III in 2027 to test the integrated operations of Orion and one or both lunar landers in Earth orbit. What we learn from that mission will ideally give us the confidence to begin lunar landing attempts starting with Artemis IV in 2028. I'm pleased with the proposals from both SpaceX and Blue Origin to accelerate progress on their landers. As I've told both of our valued partners, alongside Axiom on the EVA suit development, NASA's here to help, to provide expertise, to clear obstacles, to challenge requirements where appropriate, and do all we can to enable our partners to be successful. Should we fail, and should we look on as our rivals achieve their lunar goals ahead of our own, we are not going to celebrate our adherence to excess requirements, policy, or bureaucratic process. This revised, step-by-step approach to learn, to build muscle memory, to bring down risk, and gain confidence is exactly how NASA achieved the near impossible in the 1960s. But this time, the goal is not flags and footprints. This time, the goal is to stay. Today, we are providing a demand signal for frequent crewed missions well beyond Artemis V. We intend to work with no fewer than 2 launch providers with the aim of crewed landings every 6 months with additional opportunities for new entrants in the years ahead. America will never again give up the moon. That brings us to the next step, building the moon base. It should not really surprise anyone that we are pausing Gateway in its current form and focusing on infrastructure that supports sustained operations on the lunar surface. Despite some of the very real hardware and schedule challenges, we can repurpose equipment and international partner commitments to support surface and other program objectives. It's worth pointing out that shifting NASA workforce priority to the surface, which has lots of advantages for safety, tech demonstration, and science, it's really the proving ground for future Mars initiatives, does not preclude revisiting the orbital outpost in the future. We will build the moon base in 3 phases. Phase 1 endeavors to support industry by moving from infrequent, bespoke efforts to a templated approach that will generate significant learning through experimentation. We will dramatically expand lunar landings through the CLIPS and the LTV program, delivering rovers, instruments, and technology payloads that test mobility, power systems, such as working with international partners and industry on the production of RUs and RTGs, communications, navigation, surface operations, and all the science payload that can be incorporated. Phase 2 transitions from experimentation to semi-habitable infrastructure and routine logistics with the aim of supporting regular astronaut operations on the surface. It's at this point we anticipate seeing the significant contributions from our great partners like JAXA's pressurized rover. Phase 3 takes advantage of the affordable mass-to-surface capabilities that cargo HLS will inevitably provide in the years ahead, and enables the permanent infrastructure necessary to sustain a human presence, such as Italy's proposed habitation module. The moon base will not appear overnight. We will invest approximately $20 billion over the next 7 years and build it through dozens of missions, working together with commercial and international partners towards a deliberate and achievable plan. Just as there was Mercury and Gemini before Apollo, there will be an evolutionary path to building humanity's first permanent surface outpost beyond Earth. And we will take the world along with us as they follow along on the NASA Moonbase website and watch the assembly through lunar relay and observation satellites. At the same time, NASA will never give up its presence in low Earth orbit. The International Space Station has served humanity well, but it will not operate forever. The transition to commercial stations must be thoughtful and set up industry for success. Today, we will review a bit of the history of the International Space Station, NASA's understanding of the commercial market, the budget available to support the enormous undertaking, and the 2 potential options available to explore going forward. Now, regardless of the pathway, NASA will invest the limited budget available over the years to work with commercial providers to build the future LEO presence, which includes maturing capabilities, expanding commercial opportunities through the PAM program, while creating what we hope is an achievable glide path to commercially operated space stations. We will further signal demand for what we hope will be multiple crew and cargo transportation providers to support LEO requirements for decades into the future. Now, NASA cannot force an orbital economy to exist, but we will certainly do all we can to ignite one. Science and discovery remains at the heart of NASA's mission. Today, we'll provide updates on exciting flagship efforts like Roman and Dragonfly, alongside new initiatives like Da Vinci, bonus scientific payloads on the Mars Telecommunications Network, and rideshares designed to expand the pace of discovery. Public-private partnerships will turn NASA into a force multiplier for science. We are willing to challenge our approach to Earth observation and space weather, work with constellation providers, find efficiencies with legacy missions still yielding great science, and invest in flagship undertakings only NASA is equipped to pursue. We are excited to hear about the role of philanthropic efforts that will play in increasing our understanding of the universe, so like the Eric and Wendy Schmidt observatory systems. We welcome many such efforts and look forward to collaborating with and supporting them. The moon base itself and all the components that go into its assembly will become an extraordinary platform for scientific discovery. And there is one more thing. After decades of study and billions spent on concepts that have never left Earth, America will finally get underway on nuclear power in space. We will launch the first of its kind interplanetary mission named SR-1 Freedom before the end of 2028, demonstrate fission power and the extraordinary capabilities to move mass efficiently in space. When Freedom reaches Mars, a year after launch, it will release the Skyfall payload of Ingenuity-class copters to continue to explore the red planet. This Pathfinder effort will open opportunities for commercial fission power providers, be that propulsion, surface applications, and ultimately unlock the capabilities necessary for sustained exploration beyond the moon and missions to Mars and the outer solar system. Now, none of these efforts succeed without a very talented and capable NASA workforce. We are rebuilding NASA's core competencies. We are converting thousands of contractor positions to civil service and restoring the engineering, technical, and operational strengths expected of the world's most accomplished space agency. We are expanding opportunities for interns and early career professionals. In partnership with OPM and NASA Force, we are creating pathways for experienced talent from industry to serve at NASA through term-based appointments. And we are seeking to open opportunities for NASA employees to gain experience in the aerospace industry that is leading the world. Undertaking the near impossible should be extraordinarily difficult. It will require competence, ownership, dedication, and a great sense of urgency. We will recognize and reward only the hardworking contributors who deliver the intended outcomes. On that point specifically, we do not expect our partners to do this alone. We will embed NASA subject matter experts across the supply chain, attached to every vendor, subcontractor, and every part on the critical path, from Artemis acceleration to building the moon base. We will challenge the status quo where appropriate and help solve problems and pull in production. But to be very clear, we are not going to sit idly by when schedules slip or budgets are exceeded. Expect uncomfortable action, if that is what it takes, because the public has invested over $100 billion and has been very patient with respect to America's return to the moon. Expectations are rightfully very high, The taxpayers and their representatives in Congress should demand accountability from every vendor, every leader, every CEO if those expectations are not met. I know you all understand the message that's being delivered, and please know that I will be in the field alongside all of you doing everything we can to ensure the correct outcomes are achieved. Looking ahead, there is no shortage of exciting rocket launches, but we will also inspire the next generation through outreach, education, grants, and programs that bring the public closer to the work we do here at NASA. Expect to see NASA aircraft at air shows and public events as we celebrate America's 250th birthday, all with the aim of inspiring the next generation to grow up and take humankind even farther. Today is called Ignition for a reason. This is the moment where we should all start believing again, when ideas become missions and when hard work delivers world-changing accomplishments. NASA once changed everything, and we're going to do it again. The greatest days of science and discovery are ahead of us, and I welcome your support and commitments as we continue the greatest adventure in human history. Thank you.